Standard relationship advice fails during high-stakes arguments. Using I statements or active listening often yields no results when the body is in a state of alarm. This occurs because the seeker and the bunker are trapped in deeply ingrained biological survival loops rather than toxic personality types. When an anxious and an avoidant partner fight, they experience a subcortical nervous system collision. This collision triggers resource starvation in the brain's language centers. The prefrontal cortex goes offline as the survival system takes over, making logical resolution impossible. Teaching communication skills to a dysregulated limbic system is a futile exercise. A foundational experiment from attachment science provides the biological blueprint for this value, involving a mother leaving her infant alone in a laboratory playroom. Researchers observed the avoidant infant playing indifferently, appearing calm and largely ignoring the mother upon her return. While the left behavioral distress line remains flat, the right meters show heart rate and cortisol spiking into the red. Notice the second line appearing, the cortisol of a visibly crying infant. It matches the avoidant baby's spike, revealing masked physiological terror. These laboratory findings translate to adult relationships. When an avoidant partner shuts down during a fight, they are operating in an activated, high-stress state. Avoidance is a high-energy biological suppression of the signal of need, even while the biological drive for connection remains intact. People rarely fit into the three distinct attachment buckets suggested by popular psychology. Modern attachment science maps nervous system threat postures onto a continuous two-axis grid. The horizontal axis measures intimacy avoidance, ranging from a strict preference for autonomy to high comfort with closeness. The vertical axis measures relationship anxiety, ranging from low preoccupation to high sensitivity toward perceived rejection. In the top left quadrant, high anxiety and low avoidance, we find the seeker. Their nervous system is oriented toward pursuit to ensure connection. In the bottom right quadrant, low anxiety and high avoidance, we find the bunker. Their nervous system is oriented toward retreat to ensure safety. These quadrants represent opposing nervous system postures, pulling toward the biological strategies each individual learned was safest. To understand the bunker's quadrant, we must ask how a brain learns to shut down its fundamental drive for connection. Early conditioning taught this nervous system that expressing a need for connection resulted in unavailability, discomfort, or danger. The process resembles a circuit breaker. A need sparks internally, but a subcortical breaker trips before the signal can reach conscious expression. Maintaining this suppression requires significant energy. The internal system remains activated by stress even though the external display is forced off. This hidden suppression manifests as emotional withdrawal, rigid territorial boundaries, and a sudden reliance on logic over feelings. Bunkers often use the phantom X or an idealized fantasy partner to justify their distance or single status. This fantasy partner acts as a structural shield, keeping actual, unpredictable vulnerability perpetually out of reach. The seeker possesses a nervous system conditioned by inconsistent availability. Their adaptive response is to amplify the attachment signal through urgent pursuit, attempting to force the partner to respond. The seeker's protest behaviors and hypervigilance function as desperate biological threat responses. These threat responses converge in stage 2 of the dysregulation spiral, the surge. The surge occurs at the subcortical moment a trigger shifts the brain's appraisal from manageable to active threat. For the seeker, this trigger results in sympathetic mobilization. Their voice rises and words come faster as they feel physical need to close the distance. The bunker undergoes identical mobilization with a different output. They become still, their voice drops, and they feel an urgent physical need to create distance. This chart illustrates the biological inverse relationship between these two systems. As survival activation intensity rises, the prefrontal capacity required for language and empathy plummets towards zero. Neither person can access the version of themselves that is a good partner at peak activation, because that normal architecture is currently starved of resources. This resource starvation is why logical advice fails to stop the dysregulation spiral once it begins. Early analytical models relied on reason and speculation, leaving them unable to account for real-time physiological threat. The actual mechanism at play is limbic resonance. Mammals are co-regulatory animals. We do not regulate our nervous systems in isolation. Limbic resonance involves an unconscious, continuous subcortical reading of microexpressions, posture, and vocal tone, causing two brains to sync up like vibrating tuning forks. When the bunker withdraws, the seeker's nervous system reads the distance as a life-threatening biological signal, which escalates the contagion. This interaction is unavoidable because the neural circuits for intellect and emotion are physically separate. Insight does not regulate. Knowing how to react cannot override a subcortical survival protocol already in motion. The neurobiological alternative to standard communication advice is the sanctuary sequence. This sequence features a structural barrier. You must physically regulate the physiology before you can relate through language. The seeker must understand that the bunker's distance is a coping mechanism for survival, not a verdict on the seeker's worth. The bunker must recognize that their withdrawal functions as a high-energy suppression that actively dysregulates their partner's nervous system. Dysregulation is a biological contagion. Until you change the physiological state of the nervous system, you cannot change the state of the relationship.